come to the conclusion that one useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a law firm, and that three or more become a Congress.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Lynn Hilton, producer for Goodspeed Musicals. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for a few little technical kerfluffles there at the beginning, but we are trying to up our game and bring you a little bit more interesting event than we've done the last couple of weeks. So thank you, and kudos to Michael Fling, my associate and the magnificent director of all of this, who's in the background pulling all the levers and bells and whistles. Forgive me, I couldn't resist the very obvious political jab there, so thank you for bearing with us. It was just too easy. Welcome, thank you for joining us. First, a quick update on what's going on at Goodspeed, because so many of you have been reaching out and trying to keep in touch with us and find out what's going on and how we're doing. As most of you know, our theaters, our offices, and our shops have been dark since the end of the day on March 16th. We have canceled 5 of the 6 productions that we had scheduled for 2020. We're currently planning to start performances of South Pacific on September 11th, but like you, we are waiting to see what's happening, to watch developments, to follow instructions that the state is going to give to us. So thank you for your patience. We really want to get back into our beautiful building and to creating the beautiful work that we all love so much and that we want to share. Watching that little clip there, it was really moving to be back in that room for just a minute. So what we're going to do over the next many weeks, however long that is meet here every Tuesday to share with you some of our favorite moments in Goodspeed's long history. And tonight, we're going to celebrate 1776. It was a 2007 production here at Goodspeed. The show features music and lyrics by Sherman Edwards and book by Peter Stone. The brilliant book and music and lyrics of this show is just an absolutely magnificently built show. You probably know it's based on the events leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Our production was directed by Rob Ruggiero and starred several of my favorite actors. I have a long list, but several of my favorites were in this show. And so that's, to be honest with you, why I picked it to be the show we revisit tonight. So I'm going to ask you, Michael, to release our guest into our conversation. Please welcome Ronn Carroll, who played Ben Franklin in our production of 1776, and Peter Carey, who played John Adams.
Okay.
Hi. Oh, and now I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, and you guys are in charge. Hi, guys. How are you?
We're fine.
Good to see you. Very, very good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I like the little ornament hanging over your shoulder, Peter.
Do you like that?
That's very nice. Where's your ornament, Ron?
Which ornament?
He's got a picture of the Opera House hanging over his shoulder.
Oh, you see, I don't know what I can see.
You can't see?
Well, I can. I can see a little.
Okay. Anyway.
No,
Thanks for joining us. Thank
Yeah.
you for being our first guinea pigs for this experiment, the Greatspeed experiment. Thank you for being with us.
Well, we're delighted.
Thank you.
So how are you doing? Seriously, you managing okay? Peter, you doing okay up there?
Yeah. I mean, Massachusetts is a little bit of a hotbed at this point. But, you know, if you kind of follow what everybody's saying, and certainly the doctor's orders, so far so good. And
Good.
with an elderly mom floating around, and myself and my niece and a fairly, family nearby, everybody's doing pretty good.
But you're able to work some. You're teaching a lot.
So I
now,
am
right?
teaching online. Yeah, we the 2 colleges that I'm at both shut down back like around March 12th, somewhere around there. And they gave us about 10 days to figure out how to do the whole online and go, virtual that way and rewrite syllabi and whatnot. And I'm so thrilled that the students have been have the energy to show up and participate at this point. And yet the class is not the class. I think it's a little bit more of a safety net for everybody right at this point. So,
Sure,
but thank you for asking.
Of course. And Ron, you're in Greenville, South Carolina.
That's right.
Yeah.
And here, it is, people have been very good about their shutting down. We see very few cars on the street, very few people walking around except to the grocery store, the drugstore. But the governor has now started his opening up, which we hope doesn't open up a can of worms for us. But I am a member of a theater group here. I'm on the board of a theater called The Warehouse here, and we've had the same problem. We began a season very successfully, and in one of our most successful shows, we had to shut down in the middle of it. So we have done what we can to bring the forces back to us when they're ready, but it's hard to get people back together at the same time. But we're having a very good time trying to keep the organization going, and the people in town have been wonderful about other board members and people of contributing and coming to various events online like this that we're trying to produce. So
Greenville's a great city. I think people who've never been there might be. I'll give Greenville, South Carolina a plug. When you're able to travel again, I recommend it. It's a great small city. I mean, I don't know how big it actually is.
And we do have a big theater called the Peace Center.
Yeah, both of Goodspeed's tours recently, like 10 years ago, our tour of The Boyfriend and our tour of Pippin both came through Greenville, the Peace Center.
Well, you know, when people come here and they haven't been to Greenville, they will say, oh, well, it's some city in the middle of South Carolina. And then they land and it becomes, and they all tell it's our favorite city on tour because they have wonderful restaurants here. We have a city that was changed by one of its mayors who was a Holocaust victim. And he came back and he changed the city. He changed it from being beginning to deteriorate downtown to becoming a downtown that was restaurants,
very vibrant,
clubs, so people are excited here about all of the events that come down. And now we're a full-time stop for major Broadway tours. So,
well, our audience is excited to see some more of 1776. So we're going to go back and finish the clip that we started. Michael Fling, when you are ready. The Second Continental Congress is underway. Adams is frustrated because Congress will not vote on or even entertain debating any of his proposals for independence. So let's finish out the clip. Michael Fling, take it away.
Good God! What in hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John. Sit down, John. For God's sake, John. Sit down. Sit down, John. Sit down, John. For God's sake, John. Sit down. Someone ought to open up a window. It's 90 degrees. Have mercy, John, please. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia. Someone ought to open up a window.
I say vote yes. Vote yes, vote for independence. Say,
open up a window.
I say vote yes.
Sit down, John.
Vote for independence. Say,
open up a window. No. Too many flies. Too many flies. What is hot as hell in Philadelphia? You better open up a window. Can't we compromise here?
Vote yes.
No, too many flies here.
Vote yes.
Oh, for God's sake, John.
Tell you while we wait for John and Peter and Ron to rejoin me. Somebody asked, is this a talk show or are we going to watch more clips of the show? We're going to do some of both. We're going to watch. We have about 6 clips we're going to show you tonight, but we're limited in the amount of B-roll that we can use. So that's why we can't. We would show you the whole show if we could, but that would be a huge additional expense that quite frankly Goodspeed can't afford right now. So we're making the best we can. So guys, what's it like to revisit that?
You know, what is exciting that I never got to see any of it, you know, because we were in it. And I always wanted to be able to, you know, like you could in some shows, sit out on a day off or something and see it. But it's wonderful. And I loved this show. Peter and I were talking yesterday, and it's both of our favorite shows, and especially this theater was the perfect scene for 1776 because of its small settings. And people who have never worked on that stage don't know how small it is. But to have the set surround you really sort of introduce you to the situation of our founding fathers who were crowded into a room, hot in the middle of the summer, and trying to hammer out through all of their speeches and clashes a 1776 production. And it's so good to see it in this sort of setting, because I've seen it a few times on Broadway and other places, and it sometimes loses its intimacy and by having such a big theater. So I love the look of it. And
so Peter, I felt like every time I saw the show, and I watched that show many performances, I felt like you were having so much fun playing that incredible character.
You know, Donald, it's one of those roles, I'm not sure why, spoke to me on a number of different levels, and the energy and the drive right from that really powerful opening monologue, which in essence encapsulate the whole 3 hour or 2 hour and 50-minute arc of the entire play right then. And then just to hear that clip, the sound, that wall of sound in that beautiful theater of all of those voices every night was just really pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But to play there, it was a gift. That is for sure.
So 1776 was the first show that Rob Ruggiero directed for Goodspeed. He's now done, I think, South Pacific, when we get to it in the fall, will be his 12th production for Goodspeed. It was the first show that he had ever done for us. It was an absolutely brilliant piece of work for him. And so had you guys worked with Rob before? Had either of you worked with him?
Well, you know, I had to meet him. I
know the answers to some of these questions.
You can talk about
Maybe.
this. But I was down in South Carolina visiting my lovely wife, and they wanted me to come up and meet Rob, which I was delighted to do, because I had wanted to do this role, you know, since I was old enough to do this role. And I was excited, and so they called up and said, would you like to come up, be okay to meet Rob, and so he can see you and think you're correct for this, and get an idea about you, and you would get an idea about him. So that was the first time I met Rob.
Not an audition, as we talked the other day, not an audition, because Ron has a resume with a list of Broadway shows as long as your arm, no matter how long your arm, and you don't ask a man like that to audition.
Well, you do, you know, in New York, a lot of film actors come in and they've never auditioned, because, I mean, they audition film, but never for a show, because they have meetings, you know, and they hope that what they've seen, you know, from the director pleases them, and vice versa. But in the theater, you audition if you're coming into a new show, because they want to know if you can do that material or what you can bring to that material. And I guess my agent had said, well, I don't know if he wants to come over to the audition. I mean, you know, and it was, look, if he'd have asked me to stand on my head, I would have tried. You know, and we all lie a little bit about what we would or wouldn't do.
What about you, Peter? Would you have stood on your head for Rob?
You know, I guess I would have. I mean, was lucky enough I worked with Rob on a really powerful production of A Chorus Line up here in the Boston area. And then I went on to work with him in a very small, almost like a commedia piece or a review piece called When Pigs Fly. And what was scary about that particular piece, the track that I had I was by myself every time I came on stage, except for the opening number, one little vignette in the middle of it, and the very end. So I kind of was the glue, and it was really difficult to work by myself or with the 240. It was a very small theater, and Rob was right with me. Great team player. Think about this, think about that, think about this. And then it was a number of years later when this opportunity really fell out of the sky.
You didn't actually audition either.
Well, I did. I wanted to come to New York, but I actually was directing at that time up here in Boston, and I couldn't make it to New York. So I kind of I let the word out there, but I cut my losses and go. But you guys reached out, I guess, through Rob, just wanting to see and run me through the paces. And I came down to Goodspeed one morning and sweating and schwitzing and pounding heart. And I walked into the room, and you, Michael O'Flaherty, Michael Price, just welcomed me, and the tension in the room was just gone. And I got to play. I think I actually read with you, if I remember correctly.
Possibly.
I think
now that you say that, I think you're right.
I think you were the reader. And about 30 minutes later, you guys, okay, thanks, Peter, bye-bye. And I just hopped in the car and went over the Connecticut River and went, well, I did it. I walked in the door.
Well, it was both of you. It was beautiful performances. But Ron, honestly, I'm not actually sure that you're in this show, because I had to look at a lot of video before I found the clip with you in it. The first clip. So you're not in the first scene.
No,
Franklin's not in the first scene.
He has a sort of lovely opening where he sort of
stop
hobbles.
right there. We're going to show that to people. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So, Ronn Carroll's entrance is Ben Franklin in the Goodspeed production of 1776. Benjamin Franklin first appears sitting outside the Congressional Hall, having his portrait painted.
Okay.
Where in God's name were you when I needed you?
Right here, John, being preserved for posterity. You like it?
It stinks.
As ever, the soul of tact.
The man's no Botticelli.
And the subject is no Venus.
Franklin, you heard what I suffered in there.
Heard? Of course I heard, along with the rest of Philadelphia. God, your voice is piercing, John.
Wish to heaven my arguments were. My God, Franklin, when will they make up their mind? With one hand, they can raise an army, dispatch one of their own to lead it, and cheer the news from Bunker's Hill, while with the other, they wave the olive branch, begging the king for a happy and permanent reconciliation. I give it back, George has declared us in rebellion. Why in bloody hell can't they?
John, really, you talk as if independence were the rule. It's never been done before. No colony has ever broken from the parent stem in the history of the world.
Damn it, Franklin, you make us sound treasonous.
Do I? Treason. Treason is a charge invented by winners as an excuse for hanging the losers.
I have more to do than stand here listening to you quote yourself.
No, that was a new one.
I have something to show you.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Is that the portrait that was painted during the show?
One of the crew, she was in props, maybe. I don't know. She did the painting.
Was it Yvette?
Yeah. Maybe it was Yvette. Yeah.
Maybe it was Yvette.
And I said, I really want that, because I thought it was pretty good, likeness of the character and all that. So I have it on my wall in my office where I'm sitting now. But I thought I would show it to you.
That's great. That's so great. I really felt like I had known John Adams and Benjamin Franklin when that show closed. So I could meet the real people and it would not compare. I felt like I had known them through through your portrayals.
That's wonderful. I think I don't ever have any thoughts of a more rewarding part, because I think people we don't really think of this as a musical. It's a play with music, or a musical play, because it's such an important piece, and it has such rich, you know, as you said, lyrics and scenes, that the music just melds perfectly with it. But it doesn't get, nothing stops as far as carrying the story around. And it's not a short piece.
No, it's
but
not.
it's-
I love the fact that you talked about how you got to really know Adams and Franklin. I lucked out through that entire run by Ron kind of guiding me quite a bit through the entire run of how to take care of myself and vocal rest and sleep or stay at home and all of that kind of stuff. And we granted ourselves one night a week where we went out to dinner together. And sometimes, Ed Watts would join us.
Ed Watts
or
and
Paul
also,
Jackal.
yeah,
And it was that camaraderie outside of that space, and the way that we communicated, and just Ron's storytelling and his sense of humor. We would just laugh all the way through dinner. And you take that energy and then you work with him every night for close to 3 hours. It's no wonder, or hopefully you did get that sense of knowing who Franklin and Adams were, because I got to know this gentleman really well through that.
And you, because I think it was one of the more physically daunting pieces I've ever done, because what you had to give every night, along with the length of the piece. And I don't ever recall a show where I went between, you know, Friday we did 2 shows, Saturday we did 2 shows, and Sunday we did 1 of those. And it was daunting. And I would go to sleep. I was over in Deep River, so I didn't drive all the way home. I think Donna found me an empty bed over there, and I would sleep between shows Friday and Saturday. And I've never done that before, but it helped.
We have a couple of questions from our audience before we get to the next clip. Oh, Ed Watts has written in to say, Ed is with us.
Dear Ed.
Ed is with us, and I'm just going to read this cold, so I hope it's appropriate. Those dinners are perhaps the most memorable of the entire run. I'd come back a day early from New York City just to join these amazing men. That's wonderful.
What's kind of pretty interesting with Ed and Ron and myself is for, I don't even know, I'll say a healthy 10 years. Every July 4th, we would write a letter to each other, but in the voice of Franklin and Adams. And it was just joyous to read a letter from Jefferson come back.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing. All right,
very funny.
We're gonna look at another clip immediately following the scene we just looked at. All of pictures. Look at this. I wish you enjoyed your work. So in the clip we're about to see, we're going to look at a piece from the Lees of Old Virginia. So Ben Franklin, knowing that John Adams is disliked by many in Congress, difficult to imagine with you in the role, Peter, proposes that Richard Henry Lee of Virginia propose independence. People like him, and where the South goes, the mid-Atlantic states go, blah, blah, blah. In this clip, Lee is played by Richard White and is convinced to head home to Virginia to receive approval to propose independence to the Continental Congress. Take it away, Michael Blaine.
What makes you so sure you can do it?
My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. And may my horses turn to glue if I can't deliver up to you a resolution on independency. For I am FFV, the first family in the sovereign colony of Virginia. Yes, the FFV, the oldest family in the oldest colony in America. And may the British burn my land if I can't deliver to your hand a resolution on independency.
goes on for 3 more verses, and then he
Yes.
leaves the stage, and then he comes back for another one, and it's pretty darn funny. Yep.
Yep.
So there are only 2 female characters in 1776. John Adams' wife, Abigail, and Martha Jefferson, Thomas's wife. Abigail appears in a series of letters exchanged with Adams during his time away from their home in Massachusetts. It's just an absolutely beautiful portrayal of the relationship in this show. Through just a series of letters, they reveal this really close and loving relationship. It's really quite beautiful. In our production, Abigail was played by Jane Patterson. Some of you may remember another actress in the role. Jane left us, I don't remember why, and Rebecca Watson came into the role later. But we're gonna look at a clip from their first exchange, John and Abigail's first exchange in the first act. If you're ready, Mike.
Abigail, in my last letter, I told you that the king has collected 12,000 German mercenaries to send against us. I asked you to organize the ladies and to make saltpeter for gunpowder. Have you done as I asked?
No, John, I have not.
Why have you not?
Because you neglected to tell us how saltpeter is made.
By treating sodium nitrate with potassium chloride, of course!
Oh, yes, of course.
Will it be done, then?
I'm afraid we have a more urgent problem, John.
More urgent, madam?
There's one thing every woman's missed in Massachusetts Bay. Don't smirk at me, you egotist pay. Heed to what I say. We've been from Virginia up to Boston and cannot find a pin. Don't you know that there's a war on, says each tradesman with a grin? Well, we will not make saltpeter until you send us pins.
Pins, madam, saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Peter. Peter.
Pins.
Done, madam, done.
Done, John. Hurry home, John.
As soon as I'm able.
I want to watch the whole show. So wonderful. Just a beautiful, beautiful relationship. Can you speak a little bit, Peter, about creating that role with her?
I went to the Abigail Adams house to do some research before I came down for the production. And the Abigail Adams Society, there was Kathy, who was there that particular day, walked me through the house and really talked to me about Abigail and the house and what she did with the farm and all of that. And I picked up a few little trinkets, if you will, because I walked in and I mean, I'm being surrounded by Ron and Ed Watts and Jay Getty and Paul Jackal and all of these, you know, Broadway people. And I'm coming in wanting to tell the story and being guided by you and Rob and Ralph Perkins. So I had this little gift bag and I handed it off to her. And that just kind of opened up the door for us then to have the conversation about where we wanted to take the levity of that sequence of the show, because it really allows John to kind of come off of that frenetic energy and soften him. And Jane was just beautiful to work with, and we'd keep checking in with each other as the run went on. And same with Rebecca in terms of how were we landing out there to the 300 or so that are there at the Goodspeed.
398.
There we go, 398.
Nearly 4.
And it was packed nearly every house. I remember that. It was a big hit for us.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful, it's just a beautiful performance. And I went through and looked at several of the clips of you guys together, and just with those, I think it's 3 scenes that they have. It's really only 3 scenes, and it just unfolds this completely full.
And what I loved about Jane is though she had that softness to it, she really had that steel behind Abigail, which is why I think the two of them, at least written through Peter Stone's book, really, you understand why they get together.
Yeah.
And then you get the denouement at the very end when she brings in the kegs, and he's just like, of course you bring the kegs of saltpeter in. Of course you do that.
Yeah. And several people have commented here about how the amazing thing about this show is that we all know how it ended. You know, we know what the end of this particular story is, and yet you're sitting on the edge of your seat as it unfolds and as you get to the end of it. I remember every night after the show, we would have to run people out of the theater because they would not want to leave. They would go down to the front. You know, the show scrim came in at the end, and it was an image of the Declaration of Independence and the where the signatures were, and people would go down to the pit rail and stand there and just gaze and talk and relive the performance. And it was just it was so clearly one of the most powerful pieces of theater I have ever seen in that space. And I've been in that space for a long time.
Isn't that what Greek drama does? You know the end.
Yeah.
How tonight will we get to the end?
Yeah.
Or viscerally, why will we get there to the end of 1776, of Titanic, of Medea, of any of those?
Yeah.
So
I'll Fiddler on the Roof. We'll get to that later. Okay. I don't want to keep you guys forever. I told you we'd do a half hour, and this is a little bit longer than that. So I have one more clip. I'm going to say to Michael Fling, maybe we can pull a couple of things from Act 2 B-roll and get them onto the website when we post this so people can log in and see a little bit more of the show. I think people would enjoy that. So we're going to see Mama Look Sharp. We're going to look now at Mama Look Sharp, which in our production was the end of Act 1. It is performed here in the Goodspeed production by a young actor named Chris Kaufman. Chris grew up in the New London Groton area, and he and his little sister appeared as children in several shows. He went to the Hart School up at the University of Hartford. And when we came to casting this role, we were so thrilled that it turned out that he was the right person to play the role. So what we're going to see now is I think I'm saying this correctly. The character of George Washington appears in the show through a series of dispatches that are delivered into the Continental Congress. And the situation is increasingly dire until at the end of the show, one of the most beautiful pieces of the show is the final dispatch that I can't remember the name of the character, but the character who's kind of caretaking Congress reads. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of the show, actually, when the situation is so dire, and it does feed that energy about what is going to happen to this young nation. Is it going to be birthed or not? But in this moment, the young soldier has arrived and takes a seat and delivers this story. So this is Chris Kaufman singing Mama Look Sharp from the end of Act 1.
When they didn't come home for supper, their mamas went down the hill looking for them. Miss Lull, she found Timothy right off. But Miss Pickett, she looked near half the night for her Willem, 'cause he gone and crawled off the green before he died. Mama, hey mama, come looking for me. I'm here in the meadow by the red maple tree. Mama, hey mama, look sharp, here I be. Hey, hey, mama, look sharp. Them soldiers, they fired. Oh, ma, did we run? But then we turned round and the battle begun. Then I went under, oh ma, and Mama, look sharp. My eyes are wide open, my face to the sky. Is that you I'm hearing in the tall grass nearby? Mama, come find me before I do die. Hey, hey, Mama, look sharp. I'll close your eyes, my Billy. Them eyes that cannot see. And I'll bury up my Billy beneath the maple tree. And never again will you whisper to me, hey, hey, oh mama, look sharp.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael Fling, for unmuting us. Yes, for those who are asking, I always call him Michael Fling. I never call him Michael. We need to wrap it up here, but before we go, and I hope you'll both forgive me for sort of putting you on the spot and asking you to get philosophical for me, but I'm finding in this moment in our history that the artists that I'm speaking to are the people who are offering me a great deal of comfort. I think artists have a unique ability to reflect on the human condition. And if either of you have, or both of you, have thoughts about where we as a people sit right now and how we as artists are going to come back from this moment, which is pretty dire for theaters.
Well, I find myself thinking a lot these minutes watching here, how much we appreciate what we became as a country and how much it makes us think that we have this day, as much as those people, the charge to make sure we keep our country great and in the place that it was intended by those gentlemen.
Yes.
And I personally, at a certain age, which I am, I look back to things I love, and I love Goodspeed.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Goodspeed loves you too. Peter, any thoughts?
As artists, I think it is in the human nature for us to create all the time, be it poetry or music, storytelling around a fire, and certainly the concept of theater, no matter how we view what theater might mean to everybody. I look forward to seeing the hunger that we all have to tell the stories, both in a comedic sense and a dramatic sense. And it could be through theater or novel or poetry or sculpture. But I know we are going to continue because we have the need to share. I look forward to seeing what that message and what those stories will be, because I think we saw a big change after 1918, at least in our country's history. I think we saw a big change post 9/11, and I think of Tony Kushner.
Mhm.
I mean, the AIDS epidemic. So I think
Right.
of Tony Kushner, and I think of now. So I look forward to seeing what artists in general have to share and how they're going to go ahead and share it.
Yeah. Thank you.
They are going to.
They are going to.
Definitely
Yes.
going to.
Yes, they are going to. And Goodspeed will be there to make a home for them. I promise you that. So we're going to finish up there. I will tell our audience that Thursday at 5 p.m., I'm going to be chatting with Douglas Waterbury Timon, the writer of Johnny and the Devil's Box, the new musical that we were supposed to be developing right now at the Terrace Theater. Douglas, his wife Annabelle, who's an actress who was going to be in the show with him, and his father-in-law are going to join us. They're all in isolation together, and they're going to join us to talk about the show and share some of the really beautiful music from the show, country bluegrass sound. It's just a great show, and we hope that we'll be able to bring the show to you at another time. But we're going to share a little tidbit of it Thursday night. Next Tuesday, we'll be back here for Greatspeed. We'll feature clips from our 2014 production of Fiddler on the Roof, which starred Adam Heller as Tevye, again directed by Rob Ruggiero. I can't get away from that man. He's watching, so that's why I'm saying that. Again, just an absolutely spectacular performance by Adam, and so we're excited to revisit that show and chat with Adam a little bit. And before we go, I want to offer a special thank you to our members and subscribers who have reached out to us, who have donated their ticket refunds back to Goodspeed. We have a Footlights Fund that is accepting contributions right now. And the best thing you can do for Goodspeed right now is to consider donating your ticket refunds. Losing 5 of 6 productions is pretty catastrophic to us. We are soldiering through, and we're going to be okay. But how we come through this will be determined by your generosity in this moment. And forgive me, but that's the truth. So thank you so much to those of you who have already made that decision. I think that's all. I think that's enough. Everybody, please, thank you for being with us. Stay safe, stay at home, take good care of yourself and your families. To the first responders, the medical personnel, and the people checking us out at the grocery store, thank you so much for being there. Love you guys.
Love you.
Take care.
Thanks for doing this.
Bye-bye.